It really doesn't matter what the issue or area of growth is within your romantic relationship, whether it's conflict and disagreement, sex and intimacy, connection and trust, whether it's an external stressor like work, friends, family, or whether it's just unmet needs and desires. You and your partner must have great communication to have any chance of resolving in a way that actually works for you both your issues and areas for growth. And most of us, because we're humans, have terrible communication skills. This is what we're going to talk about in today's episode. Welcome to Relate Higher, a podcast dedicated to providing the leading standard in conscious higher relating and to teaching you a conscious framework for all of your relationships. This is your go-to resource for developing meaningful, conscious relationships across your life. I'm your host, award-winning relationship coach and consultant and former family lawyer, Leticia Ringe. I'm so glad you're here. Welcome back to the podcast, my friends. Today's episode is all about communication, conscious communication in romantic relationships. This is the second C in our series all about conscious romantic relationships. Communication is so essential in any relationship and especially the closest relationship in your life, which is your romantic partnership. This episode will help you whether you're in a romantic relationship right now or not, as it will tell you everything you need to know about communication so that you know what skills are needed to support you to have great communication in your romantic relationships, which will also help all of your other relationships across your life. Now, not only is this useful if you're in a romantic relationship, it is also extremely useful if you're not. Because one of the reasons why so many people are not in romantic relationships, or they're not even doing the things to be in a romantic relationship, like going out there and going on dates, is because we don't know how to communicate with each other. If you help yourself by learning the skills so that you can become a really great communicator in your relationships, it will help you to feel ready, prepared, and safe to be in a romantic relationship. So in today's episode, I'm going to be sharing with you 5 important tips about communication in romantic relationships that you probably haven't learned anywhere else. As you end today's episode, you will know exactly what the pathway is to learning the skills for creating great communication skills in your romantic relationship. So you'll know exactly what you need to focus on practicing and learning about, and that means you'll have a pathway so that you can move forward and become a more effective communicator in your romantic relationship and your life. Now, if you think this episode is not relevant for you, the only question I want you to ask yourself is, how seen, heard, and understood do you feel by your romantic partner or previous romantic partners, and also the other people who play a close role in your life? You can look at family, friendship, work, and also, of course, your romantic relationships. And how well do you feel that you understand, hear, and see your romantic partner, or if you're not in a romantic relationship right now, other previous partners you've had, or look to your extended relationship circle like your friends, family, and your professional network. Communication is about hearing, understanding, and seeing one another. It's also about being seen, understood, and heard by other people. In order to feel seen, heard, and understood, whether you're the person being seen, heard, and understood, or you're the person seeing, hearing, and understanding, you need 5 important things in communication. The first is you need to understand that within a romantic relationship, and I would argue any relationship, there are 3 different types of communication we need to have with one another. Usually in relationships, and especially in romantic relationships, which are usually just a more exaggerated example of what our communication patterns are across our life and relationships, we tend to lean into only one of these 3 categories. For some of us, maybe it's 2. But the point is, we need all three of these types of communication, and we need them in what feels like an equal balance. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean amount of time, but it means that they all need to feel equally important. So for a lot of you, you will get so much from today's episode just by shifting your focus to make sure you're giving each of these three types some airtime in your relationship. Now, the first type is cleansing communication. Cleansing communication is communication that has a purpose of cleansing the air between you. You might look to cleansing communication when you've just had a fight, or you're in a fight, or some type of conflict with your partner. Cleansing communication is really important, and we can actually do cleansing communication before we have conflict and disagreements so that we can clear the air in our romantic relationship, which allows us to lessen the load when we have triggers or unexpected conflict and disagreement. Otherwise, what happens is the next time you're triggered or you have an unexpected disagreement with each other, all of your other resentment and frustrations that haven't been cleansed, that haven't been cleared, come out through that very trigger, which leads to much bigger fights and conflict between you. So you want to have regular cleansing communication so that you can clear the air. Every relationship needs the air to be cleared, and that will allow your conflict and triggers, when they do arise, to be on a much lower scale. The second type of communication is check-ins. You and your partner want to be having regular check-ins with each other about your dreams and goals, about your needs and desires, and any other really important values, intentions, or other commitments within your relationship, or anything that is important to you both as individuals. We need to have these check-in conversations so that we know about each other as we are today. Most couples don't do this because they think they know each other, but they don't even realize that they don't necessarily know themselves as they are today. And this is a problem because we all change, grow, and evolve as we move throughout our life and as we move throughout our romantic relationships. Now, a communication that has a purpose of checking in is not only great for you and your partner to understand one another and to understand where you're at today, what you're needing and wanting from the relationship as well as from your life, but it is also an opportunity for each of you as individuals to check in with yourselves. What a lot of people don't realize is that communication, discussion, conversations, they're actually a way for you as an individual to get to know yourself better. Yes, the purpose of the communication or conversation is often so that the other person can understand you and so you can feel understood. But beneath all of that, it is an opportunity for you to understand yourself more deeply. Because when we talk about it, we get more of an understanding of what we're actually wanting and what we actually mean. And when the other person's listening and they don't understand really what we're saying, or they're making assumptions, if the other person can ask questions rather than making assumptions, but actually ask, is this what you mean? Did I get this right? You have the opportunity to check in and ask yourself, is that actually what I mean? And if it's not, you get to explain. This allows for not only the other person to truly understand what you're trying to express, but it also allows you to understand yourself better. And it's because of the question, it's because of the different point of view that was then put to you through a question, if you're using a conscious communication skill, that then allows you to access that deeper layer of understanding of yourself. Without that question, you didn't have the vehicle to get that deeper understanding of yourself. So when people ask us great questions, we often find, oh, actually, I didn't realize that this is what I meant until you asked the question. This is why coaching is so incredibly powerful. It's the reason people spend a lot of money and time investing in coaching, because you get asked questions that allow you to have an expanded awareness of yourself. So you and your partner can do this in your relationship by having regular check-in communication that allows both of you to check in with each other, to understand each other, and to also understand yourselves more deeply. Now, the third type of communication is connection. You and your partner need to have communication which has a purpose of simply connecting. It's not to cleanse the air. It's not to check in with each other. It's simply to connect. Now, this type of communication has a more spontaneous, playful, and open aspect to it. It is really about you and your partner simply spending time with each other and seeing what comes up, being spontaneous and collaborating from that place of spontaneity. We all need to have time for connection within our relationships. Otherwise, we start to feel disconnected simply because we're not spending time with each other in a way that allows us to feel fully connected. It's really important for all romantic relationships to have time together where it's just playful, where it's lighthearted, and where it's spontaneous so that you can see what naturally arises between you. And so if things are feeling so serious with you, or you've had a lot of conflict recently, it might be that you just simply need some connection communication so that you can have some time to build a new point of reference between you that is lighthearted, that is fun, that is playful, and where you start to get on the same page through simply connecting, rather than trying to force each other on the same page, or rather than trying to solve heavy or issues where you feel like there's a lot of disagreement. You can build that connection through simply spending time connecting. I know that this might sound too simple, but it's really very much overlooked by a lot of couples. If you're feeling disconnected, if things are feeling too serious, then simply spend some time having some light-hearted, connective time together. This could be something like a date night, or going out and spending time with friends, or going out and spending time doing something that you both love to do that just makes you feel like a child again. Spending time to simply connect is really important in relationships, and we need to make sure we're doing this regularly. Otherwise, if it's all intense and serious, it will start to feel like that is all the relationship is. Okay, so that's the first tip I want you to know about great communication in your romantic relationship. Now, to reflect on this first point, I want you to ask yourself the following question. How much time, as a percentage, just guess, this doesn't need to be precise, do I spend with my current romantic partner? Or if I'm not in a relationship right now, think of the last previous relationship you've been in. And if you've had no romantic relationships, that's okay. Think of one of the closest people in your life that you spend the most amount of time with and ask yourself the following question. As a percentage, how much of our communication together falls within each of these three categories? So what percentage is about cleansing, what percentage is about check-ins, and what percentage is about simple connection? This will help you understand which area you need to lean into a little more so that you can start to experience more balance and a better flow of energy in your relationship. My second tip for communication is that all communication needs a structure. It doesn't matter what the type of communication is, you and your partner will have more effective communication because of having a structure. Structure is what allows you and your partner to feel safe and prepared for the communication that's about to take place or the communication that is taking place. So it's really important to know that these tips that I'm sharing in today's episode can be applied intentionally ahead of time as you're preparing for a particular communication container that you want to create with your partner. They can also be used in the moment. You might be communicating, connecting with your partner, and you might suddenly become aware, hey, we're spending time together. What sort of communication are we having right now? This will allow you to then shift into the appropriate structure for that kind of communication. Now, what does the structure involve? The structure involves three things. Number one, we need to know what the purpose is of the communication. Number two, we need to know what the process is for that kind of communication so that we can achieve the purpose. And number three, we need to know clearly what the start and end is for that communication. This is what I like to call a container. So I want you to think of your communication as communication containers. In this particular container that we're stepping into or that we're in right now, we know that the purpose of this container is to achieve this specific kind of communication. We know that the process needed to achieve that purpose in our communication looks like this. And we know that the beginning and end of this communication container looks like this. This is incredibly important so that both you and your partner feel safe and prepared for the communication you're having or about to have. For many people, their body and mind is simply not prepared for the kind of communication they want to have or are having in that moment. And this is what leads to disconnection and conflict between couples. When you know that a particular type of communication is coming up and what the purpose is of that communication, and you know that you and your partner have a process that will allow you to effectively achieve the purpose of that communication, it allows you and your partner to feel safe and ready to open yourself up vulnerably to that communication experience. And on a more practical sense, it allows you to prepare your body and your mind for that communication. Because most of the time, the reason communication ends in conflict and disconnection is simply because you and your partner are not mentally and physically ready for the communication you're about to have. You both just need to take a beat so that you can mentally and physically prepare yourself for the communication. Physical preparation looks like preparing your nervous system for what you're about to experience. Mental preparation looks like preparing your mind for the communication you're about to experience. It goes a long way when both you and your partner feel that you're both being respected and looked after before you move into a communication. Now, some people process more quickly than others, and so it could be that you're a really quick processor and you can be ready like that when it comes to the communication that you and your partner are about to enter into, whereas your partner needs some more time. If you can both check in and ask, hey, I want to have this kind of communication with you, this is the purpose, when would you be available for that? It means that you can set a time in the future for that kind of communication. And if you're in the moment and it's unstructured, which means there's potential for chaos and you're realizing that this isn't going very well, if you take a moment to tune in and ask yourself the kind of communication you want to have here, what is the purpose? Then you can ask your partner, hey, this is actually the kind of communication I'm really wanting and needing right now. When will you be ready for that kind of communication? Then you can both step in from an equal playing field, ready for that communication, mentally and physically ready, and also with a process and a purpose to support you. So having a structure for your communication is really important, and that involves a purpose, a process, and also a container. Now, one last example I want to give you of this is that if we look at cleansing communication, if we were always having cleansing communication, or we could just spring that on our partner at any moment, this would be extremely stressful for their nervous system and also for yours. This is what it means when someone says, it feels like I'm walking on eggshells, because at any moment, they need to be having a cleansing conversation. And if they're not doing cleansing conversations periodically and ahead of time before there's a trigger and before there's big disagreements, it means that they'll be having lots of explosive disagreements or shutdowns often. This is extremely taxing on anyone's nervous system. Compare this to having containers for a short amount of time or an appropriate amount of time for you and your partner to resolve the difference, to clear the air, and knowing that outside of that, the purpose of the communication is either a check-in or connection. It's not the time for cleansing. It also helps that if you are in the moment and there's a trigger, you can say to each other, hey, we need to have a cleansing conversation, but now's not the time. Let's give that a place at this point in the future. Does that work for you? Would you be ready for that then? It means that you can set it aside and you can be present in the connection and the communication with your partner as it is right now. And if you really need it because you can't think of anything else, it's either showing you that you need to go out and spend some time alone, regulating yourself and coming back to a place of balance where you're not triggered first, or you and your partner might decide to prioritize that conversation now. But it's not going to be effective if you're both triggered or if one of you is really triggered. So we'll be talking more about conflict in the next episode, which will deal more with this topic all about triggers. So the self-reflection question to ask yourself here is, do I have a structure for my communication in my romantic relationship? Think about a current relationship or a previous relationship, or like I said in the previous point, think about your closest relationship you have if you haven't had a romantic relationship in your life yet. The third tip for communication is that all communication should have a purpose. Now, your purpose comes from the type of communication I mentioned in our first point. So you want to ask yourself, is the purpose of this communication container that we are stepping into or I'm about to step into, is the purpose to clear the air between us? Or is it to check in with each other? Or is it to simply connect with one another? When you know what the purpose is of this communication, it allows you to understand what the process is that's needed, and it allows you to implement a clear structure. When you're clear on what the purpose is, it allows you and your partner come together in collaboration. It makes you so much more powerful because you both know what the purpose is of our interaction here. This allows you to both suddenly be on the same page. It also allows you both to get to a productive purpose with one another, one that is actually supportive of your relationship and of your connection as a whole. When you and your partner step into collaboration together, this allows you to feel like you're connected because you feel like you're on the same page. It also allows both of you to step into consciousness because you're now using the conscious part of your brain to interact with one another. This allows you both to look at your relationship in the present moment through a particular lens that has a clear purpose that will support you with what is needed in your relationship right now. So the self-reflection question I have for you here is to ask yourself, how often does my communication with my partner or a previous partner or a close person in my life have a clear purpose? If it doesn't have a clear purpose, now you know that that is something that you can lean into to improve your communication. My fourth communication tip for you is that each type of communication needs different skills. And when we know what the type of communication is, we can lean on the skills that are needed for that particular communication container. We can also put these skills into a particular process that you and your partner can learn and reliably lean upon in order to have better communication and also meet the purpose of that communication together. Now, let me show you an example of this. Let's say you're having a cleansing communication with your partner. If you're in a cleansing communication container, you might want to lean on skills such as nonviolent communication, which would include communicating in a way that takes responsibility, which doesn't pass blame, and which allows you to fully express what's needed to express in a way that's not going to antagonize your partner. It also gives you the skills needed being on the listening end so that you're not making assumptions and getting defensive, but you're instead allowing your partner to express in a way that feels safe. If you're in a cleansing conversation, you might also want to make sure you understand nervous system regulation so that you can make sure on a physical level your body is not in a place of stress, not in a place of fight and flight, and is actually in a place that feels regulated and calm. This will allow both you and your partner to have a better cleansing conversation, and it also allows you a better point of reference so that the next time you have a disagreement, you're teaching your body and your nervous system that it's safe, even though you and your partner are disagreeing. And thirdly and finally, in a cleansing conversation, you might want to have a process to lean upon, like an imago format conversation dialogue, or what we also call an intentional dialogue, that will allow you and your partner to follow a specific process that allows you both to feel validated, to empathize with each other, and where you both get to express in a way that allows you to be fully understood and where you're able to understand each other. This format or process gives you something to follow in what would otherwise feel like a kind of chaotic conversation together. And this means that when you and your partner enter a cleansing communication container together, you know exactly what the process is that you can lean upon. This allows you and your partner to feel safe and prepared because you know what's going to happen, and you know that the process that has been created is one that has supported you in the past. Now, let's compare this to a connecting communication container. This is where you and your partner are simply connecting. You're connecting verbally, also physically, maybe sexually, maybe spiritually, emotionally. You're connecting. This is a conversation, a communication, an opportunity for you to both connect in a way that is spontaneous, in a way that is playful, in a way that is more open. In order to create that kind of engagement together, that kind of communication together, you're going to need different skills to the cleansing communication dialogue you're going to have together. You need to be able to relax, to feel open, to feel playful, to have fun. And this is going to be a very different preparation, process, and skills that you want to lean upon in order to do that. So the question I want you to ask yourself is, do you have clear skills and processes for the 3 types of communication your relationship needs so that you can reliably fall upon when you are creating a container for communication in your relationship? If not, then this is simply showing you the gap that you have and where you want to lean into researching and educating yourself upon so that you can learn the skills. My 5th and final communication tip for you is that in every communication container that you enter into with your partner, you need to play 2 roles. And those 2 roles are the listener and the expressor. And you should never be the listener and the expressor at the same time. So it's really important that you learn what skills are needed to be a great listener and what skills are needed to be a great expressor. This will allow the dynamic between you and your partner and the energy between you to flow more easily. Now, as the listener, it's really important for you to learn how to actively listen to your partner, which means listening from a place where you're listening to more than just the words that are coming out. You have an open awareness that allows you to see your partner, to see the things that you can't see with your eyes, but you're picking up on with your energy, and also to actually see with your eyes what is happening in their body language. This is going to give you so much more information than if you just rely upon the words, or if you just rely upon the body language, or if you just rely upon the energy that you're picking up on. So as the listener, we're listening without filters, without making assumptions. This also tells you that as the listener, where you don't understand, your job is to ask questions so that you can understand on a deeper level. Whenever you make an assumption, you want to check yourself by asking your partner through a question. Let me just understand if I heard you correctly. What I heard from you is, and then insert what you heard. It is very likely that what you heard is different to what was expressed, or is different to what you understand those particular words to have meant. You want to give your partner the opportunity to explain and clarify, because they might use a particular word or way of explaining something that to you means something completely different. We all do this with each other all of the time. So you have to get really conscious and aware and slow down and check yourself with all of the assumptions you're making. Your main goal as the listener is to understand. Now, when you're the expressor, your main goal is to be understood. This is going to require you to remove the filters from yourself so that you can share vulnerably. But you want to make sure you share in a way that will actually be received by your partner in a way that can be understood. So you want to make sure that you are talking about your own experience, that you're not shifting blame upon your partner, that you're taking responsibility for your emotional experience, for the thoughts and stories you're operating in. And your main goal is to simply put your experience out into the open so that you can both look at it, and you're the only person who can give access to that picture. So your job is to get really good at observing it all and then sharing that with your partner. Now, obviously, in order to do this, you have to be aware of yourself. You have to be willing to self-reflect. You have to be willing to understand how you're feeling emotionally. You got to be willing to look at what are the thoughts and stories I'm operating from here. What have I been telling myself? This means you have to be willing not to blame your partner or to recognize that there are many different ways of viewing the same situation. When you allow yourself to come from more of this observer perspective of yourself, it allows you to share in a way that is probably more vulnerable than you're used to, and also effective at the same time, because you're not projecting that onto your partner and blaming them for your experience. Instead, you're putting your experience out on the table so that you can both look at it. When you share from a place of observing yourself, you allow yourself to put your observation of yourself onto the table so that your partner can see it too. It allows you to share in a way that's more vulnerable because you're seeing yourself in this moment of time as simply a moment in time. It's not your deeper truth. You don't need to commit to it forever. It's not the whole part of you. It is just the part of you that you need to have observed right now. So that's going to allow you to be more open and vulnerable. And equally, it will allow your partner to look at that without trying to protect themselves, because you're not projecting your experience onto them. So we want to make sure we're not in this fight and flight defense mode with each other. We are sitting side by side with each other. We're putting our experience on the table so that we can both look at it. Your partner over here is asking the questions to understand, which is allowing you to understand your experience more. And it's also about you simply accepting your experience as it is now, putting it on the table to be seen, which allows you to be seen and heard and accepted, which is what we truly all want. Once you express, you will find you actually access deeper truths that are different to the truth that was expressed. And your partner will find the more that they seek to understand and the less they react to your truth, the more space they give you to access a deeper truth that is more supportive of your relationship and your communication and connection together. So the final self-reflection question for you in today's episode is, how well do I play the role of the listener versus the expressor? Your answer to this will reveal which role you need to support yourself to lean into more and learn the skills that will allow you to be a better expressor versus a better listener. And for most of you, you'll probably find that you could use some support in both roles. All right, my friends, let me summarize what we learned today in this episode. We talked about the 5 communication skills for conscious romantic relationships, which are relationships that allow you both to thrive as a couple. We talked about the 3 types of communication containers, the importance of having a clear purpose for your communication, as well as clear skills and a process for your communication containers, and finally, the importance of understanding which role you're in and what skills are required based on being the listener or the expressor in your communication with your partner. In our next episode, we'll be addressing the 3rd C to a conscious romantic relationship, which is conflict. Conflict is normal in all relationships, including our romantic relationships. And if you and your partner both feel safe and prepared and you've got the skills to navigate conflict in a way that is healthy, in a way that resolves the conflict peacefully, you and your partner will have a better connection between you. Now, if you'd love personalized support for you and your partner or for yourself so that you're ready for a romantic relationship in the future, I want to invite you to my Conscious Relationship Coaching Program. My Conscious Relationship Coaching Program is my signature coaching program. It is created completely bespoke so that it is tailored for you to meet your needs based on where you are right now within your romantic life, and also what you most need and what your goals are within a romantic relationship. I work with couples and I also work with individuals, whether you're in a relationship or whether you're currently single. Wherever you are within the relationship cycle, the best time to learn the skills for a romantic relationship so that you can step into a thriving romantic relationship either now or in the future is today. Because when you've got these skills, you can either implement them in your relationship right now, or you'll feel safe and ready for a romantic relationship when the time is right for you. Not only does it impact your romantic life, it impacts every other relationship in your life too, including your relationship with yourself, and it gives you energy for every other area of your life. Because to be honest, our romantic relationships, our unmet needs and desires, they suck a lot of energy from the rest of our life when we are not giving our romantic life the attention it needs. If you'd love to find out more, you can submit your application at relatehigher.com/CRCP. I'll see you in the next episode. Goodbye. Thank you for listening to Relate Higher, your go-to resource for learning how to consciously approach all of your relationships. To deepen your learning and practice, make sure you're subscribed to receive the Relate Higher community newsletter. This is a weekly newsletter sent to you every Monday, providing further coaching and education to support your relationships. Subscribe at relatehigher.com/community. And if you haven't yet left a 5-star review for the podcast, we ask that you please do that now so that this podcast can reach other listeners who also want to learn and practice conscious higher relating. Because remember, the more people who learn, the better relationships we all enjoy.